never get sick of it. Makes you feel so special.
What?
It makes me feel so special.
I'm so glad. It is my main goal in life today, this morning, especially to make you feel special.
Your main goal in life today, this morning.
Right. Yes, in this moment, my main goal is make Becca feel special. I will try to make that my main goal next week, but I will probably fail a bit.
No, I'm pretty sure that should be my main goal next week. You're the one who's going to be recovering.
I'll be like, Becca, you're so special. There's the oxycodone.
I'm starting to doubt whether or not this mic works at all because I just wasn't even using it and it doesn't seem like anybody noticed.
I don't know how it would sound different.
I need to stop being like worried about prices and just like double down on this podcast thing. I need to be like, all right, this is I think number 10, maybe number 11 because we did 2 last week and we didn't release one yet. So it's time to like commit and buy expensive podcasting equipment maybe. Also,
I have a ring light and a tripod.
Yeah, that's awesome. Good job. I don't want to wear the headphones and smush down the beautiful curls.
Your curls are absolutely splendid and should not be repressed in any way. I agree.
But that would let me know if the microphone was working or not, I guess. I don't know.
I mean, maybe. I don't really know how microphones work.
We're such professional podcasters.
I know. Well, that's if whoever's listening is not listening because we're professional podcasters.
This is so true. And
they're listening because we're a bunch of weird assholes talking shit, and that's their thing for some reason.
I think it started out as just our friends and family, and now I think not even they are listening. Maybe like 1 or 2 people left. But I'm really excited because we're doing the collab with a real podcast, and we're releasing that episode next week. So sneak preview for the 1 or 2 listeners we have left. Spread the word. We interviewed Trevin from Seriously Sinister, and I just cannot wait. And I'm gonna type up my little story and do something on his podcast so we can get a little bit of get the good word out there about the Kate and Beck experience.
The Kate and Beck experience.
All right, I know you have a hard stop today at 11:15, so let's get this show going. Kate, did you have your shit together this week?
Did I ever have my shit together, Becca? Oh my God, did I have my shit together? So much of my shit was together.
Okay, tell me. At least one
example.
Now
I have to remember how.
Well, you can't just claim that your shit was together and not give me proof. I'm gonna stop buying it.
That's true. You'll be here next week and I will have to prove it. Okay. Whoops. I didn't really have my shit together as well as I needed to concerning your arrangements, but we got that straightened out. I needed to figure out what was going on precisely with the hysterectomy. Like I had some more questions and I got them answered. Yay. So I got that taken care of. I also had to get some stuff straightened out with food stamps and some stuff straightened out with financial assistance through the hospital and some other stuff like that. And I got things cleaned up, and I feel like I did a whole bunch of other stuff because I really knocked a lot of stuff out on my to-do list.
Well, that's important that you're like thinking ahead, that you're going to be sort of out of commission soon, and what do you need to get done before then? And important part of getting your shit together.
I also did, let me think, 7, 8, 9, 10, about 10 and a half hours of massage therapy this past week.
You have got to be exhausted.
My hands don't like me right now a little bit because I've become a bit of a pansy. I don't do 5 hours of massage in a day anymore, which is what I used to do, 5 to 7 hours in a day. I do like 3.5 tops in one day. And I don't normally I only have maybe 2 clients that'll get a 2-hour massage and everybody else gets like a 90-minute massage. And I did 2 2-hour massages this week and then a whole bunch of 90. Anyway, jeez, my hands are like, can we just
imagine?
And then I journaled a lot yesterday. because I had a lot of stuff that I really had to work through. There was some drama this weekend. So I had a lot of stuff to work through, and I haven't been really up on my journaling for a few years until pretty recently, when someone, Taylor, bought me a journal for my birthday. Like, I don't have 5 half empty journals somewhere, but like, I don't want to restart those. And this was perfect and not intimidating. Well, I'm being conservative.
Okay.
Write that down. Kate was conservative for a minute.
I was gonna say, I have at least 25.
Right? And they're all really pretty.
Like with 1 or 2 pages written in them. And that's it.
This one's like a Lord of the Rings journal, so appropriate. And it had like the entrance to Khazad-dûm on the front. And I'm like, that kind of represents my life right now. So
love it.
So I was like, I'm going to write in this. And I just wrote everything out, and it got my brain and my heart organized. And I did a Reiki session, and yeah, I got a lot of shit together. Do you have your shit together?
Well, I wanted to just ask for a second. Khazad-dûm is the speak, friend, and enter door, right?
Yes, the mines of Moria.
I love that one, because I swear to you, when they read it to us in 3rd or 4th grade, whenever it was that we had that read to us at Lamb of God Christian School, yeah, I just knew right from the start that all they had to do was say the word friend.
Right, me too.
That was the code word. And like, it was one of the first times I felt smart, right? Because I never felt smart at Lamb of God. Not once did they let me feel smart, ever.
I always thought you were smart.
Okay, but
yeah, I know, I'm not an adult, so who cares?
Do you remember the award ceremonies at the end of the school year?
Pretty sure I blocked those out.
Yeah, you probably did, because you were probably like me, and you probably had to sit through 6 of them and never got a single fucking award.
Just sitting at all, period.
I'm not saying like we had it right when we gave every millennial a trophy for every single thing they did. That was not right. That created little monsters, little praise dependent monsters. Okay. Maybe. But it is okay to once in a while find a way to recognize a kid as she is and tell her you also have something about you that is different than everyone else and special. That's okay to do. I'm not saying every single award ceremony, but you would think from kindergarten through 5th grade, they could have thrown 1 fucking award my way. 1.
Yeah. It would have been nice.
And it didn't just break my heart, it broke my mom's heart. So I had that added like pressure sitting through those award ceremonies, like knowing that my mom was going to be so upset when it was over that yet again, I did not get an award. And they gave out a ton of awards. They gave out so many.
Mm-hmm.
And God love her, Rebecca Hancock got like all of them every year.
Of course, I do remember that. Okay, so I must have been there, because I remember like, damn it, Becca Hancock. Jeez, like, leave some for the rest of us. I know we're not bright in here, but
of course,
I don't know what was wrong with my ego, but I was always like, listen, I know I'm clever. I don't know why I'm not getting any awards. Probably because I fail tests a lot, but you know, I'm smart.
Yeah, I think you had to do homework to get awards, and that was something I just never did.
I never had time for homework. I was like, fuck that shit. I'm not doing that. I did enough in school.
So this week has been another week of feeling like, and I don't want to talk about this because Tricia is here to hear it live instead of just like when she listens to the podcast, but this has been a week of not having my shit together at work. Cover your ears, Tricia. Don't listen. I spent a lot of time sitting and looking at my phone, even though on Monday, Tricia and I talked about how to avoid that. And I just have to remember that. And see, I was not counting on Secretary Mayor Pete Buttigieg giving me an extra 3 hours of leave today. So Monday is a federal holiday. And now before every federal holiday, the executive branch gives us an extra 3 hours of leave. In the federal government, there used to be this thing called the 59-minute rule. And it would be like this secret thing that it was like a whisper campaign, right? And it would just go from like, it would come from the top down, but like the top person would whisper to his or her secretary, let them know they can use the 59-minute rule today. And then she would run and whisper to everybody in her office, and she'd tell somebody to let the office below them know, and it would filter down. And sometimes as a contractor, by the time it got to me, I'd be like, well, I'm leaving anyway. Like, you guys took so long to tell me. I used to work 6:30 to 2:30. That used to be my shift because of DC traffic. And it would be like, they'd come to me at like 2:15 and be like, 59-minute rule, 59-minute rule, make sure that you leave 59 minutes early. And it'd be like, well, gee, thanks. I guess it's the 14-minute rule now. Yeah. Well, Secretary Mayor Pete Buttigieg and President Biden have, I guess, decided they could boost the morale because things are so crappy now by giving us a 59-minute rule in advance and legally and on the books, and it's 3 hours. So I should have seen it coming, but I didn't. And I was planning on doing all of my work for the week as soon as we finished recording today. And now I have 3 hours less to do my work. So I'm a little panicked, but I still have faith that I can get my shit together. Is my internet really bad today?
No, it's the guys chopping a tree down outside my window. And they like went from to like vroom, 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 vroom. I'm like, okay.
They want to be on the
house.
Okay, let's see if the podcast is still here. There she is. She's asleep. I have to lower the camera.
I had all 3 cats in my room until like just this moment when I heard something hit the ground outside.
So I guess this podcast is brought to you by Shion the Podcat and Kate's Tree Guys.
Kate's Tree Guys.
For all
very cheerful. We had some fun music going on in the beginning.
I don't know if I talked about this on the podcast or off the podcast. I think it was on the podcast that my neighbor decided that I wouldn't mind if she chopped branches off of my tree. And I only know about this because I walked around the corner to water my flowers at the time that she was telling her nephew this. And that's the only reason I know that this was going to happen. Well, just to update our listeners, because I know they're on the edge of their seats with my tree drama. I saw the tree guy come to her house about a week ago and nothing has happened. So I'm hoping he told her either it's illegal to trim your neighbor's tree, even if the branches are in your yard, or chill out, lady. Those branches aren't big enough to break the fence and they're totally alive and healthy and they're not going to fall. I don't know.
Here's to hoping.
So far, so good. My tree is intact. I'm sorry you're losing your trees. That really sucks.
It does.
Do you think your landlord will let you plant a new tree?
Oh yeah. Yeah, he's sweet. I already told him. Well, I mean, I tell him I'm going to do things. The only thing is, and he just kind of like rolls his eyes a little bit like, okay, weird hippie chick, you know, but like, he did also tell me, he's like, I'm going to have the house repainted and I am open a bit to asking you what your color preference is. And I was like, purple. He's like, no. I'm like, yellow. He's like, no. I'm like, creamy yellow? He's like, actually, that would be nice. I'm like, purple door. He's like, no. I'm like, maybe put a pin in the purple door. He's like, no.
What about purple door if you paint it yourself and promise to repaint it before you move out?
That's what I'm thinking. And I've been here 8 years. So he knows I'm pretty settled in here. Like, yeah, dude, I live here. Yeah, I'm gonna paint it purple. If you don't like
it's probably to the point where if he needed to sell the house, we would make sure you were in the position to buy the house.
Right.
Probably just like have a GoFundMe or like have like someone with really good credit buy it for you and let you live in it and pay the mortgage for them. And I mean, that might be me because apparently the bank wants to give me a personal loan and that has never happened. I haven't asked the bank for personal loans before and they've been like, haha, you smoking crack? We don't give people personal loans.
Is it crack or is it meth? Be either one.
I think if I smoke meth, my ADHD symptoms subside, so it has to be crack. I mean, I take meth, right? That's what Ritalin is. It's methylphenidate.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's what.
Yeah. Meth doesn't do much for people like me, except, yeah, it does what we need it to do. That's how it was invented.
Yeah,
actually, it was invented to be a diet pill, and then they noticed that some people who were taking it were also getting their shit together. And they said, well, how come you couldn't get your shit together before? Oh, because you had ADHD. Oh, well, maybe this is an ADHD drug.
Pharmaceuticals are scary.
Yeah, that's why it's called practicing medicine, because they're still practicing.
Still practicing. I went back to college after my divorce, and I really had to study for a history test because it was all going to be multiple choice, like 400 questions of multiple choice instead of essays. Like, if you give me an essay, I'm gonna make you cry and get a Pulitzer Prize or whatever. But no, it's like multiple choice because it was a big class, and I really needed to study.
And they think that's easier, but that's actually harder, right? It's like
so much harder
to do root memorization.
So much harder. I don't, my brain doesn't with that. Even though like I could teach that class. I learned it so well, but a test, a multiple choice, 500 question, I don't know how, multiple hundreds of questions.
And I bet fill in the blank would have been easier than multiple choice, because multiple choice makes you second guess yourself.
But not easier for the professor to grade, see, because it was like a class of 300 people or something.
Right.
So
you want Scantron.
Right. So I may have taken my son's Ritalin, and then I thought, oh, weight ratios, right? So I took 2.
Oh dear God, no, it doesn't work that way with Ritalin.
No, I know that now, but I didn't know it then. And
did you stroke out?
I also had an espresso.
Oh dear God, your poor heart and brain.
Yes, my poor heart and brain. I cut my hair and rearranged my bedroom and copied all of my notes and posted it to the wall behind my computer. And guess how well I did on the tests?
I'm not sure.
Still failed.
Still failed. No. Oh no. Oh no.
And like for the rest of the day, I was just like, oh well.
That really
Lesson learned.
Yeah. Just okay. Two notes to our younger listeners, even though we don't have any. Scantrons before the internet, and you could take tests on a laptop in your classroom, or however you smart techie youngins do it today.
Youths. You youths.
Scantons were these long rectangles with like these tiny little bubbles in a row, and they were so close together with no space between them, and you had to find the answer on the real test over here and come over to your Scantron and find the right number that corresponded with the test over here. So you had 2 different pieces of paper, and then you had to fill in the bubble just right. And if it wasn't filled in the whole way, the reader wouldn't count it as a correct answer. And if it was filled in outside of the lines, it wouldn't be counted as a correct answer. And if you, like me, very often had like the eye problem issue of only using one of your eyes, and you thought you were filling it on line 2, but you actually filled it in on line 3, and then every single question from there on out was off by 1, and you got every single answer wrong except for the first one, they were a nightmare. They were a nightmare. Also, don't do drugs, even
also don't do drugs. Please don't.
I mean, unless they're legal, because the legal ones are pretty groovy from what I've heard.
But like,
and I'm not talking alcohol, because alcohol should be totally illegal. Alcohol is a poison. I'm talking the green stuff. The green stuff seems good.
I thought you meant like the green alcohol. I'm like, I don't think absinthe should be legal either, but
absolutely not.
I've never had it, but I've heard so many stories. Oh no, wait, I have had it.
I'm just talking the ganja. Let's see, how many words can we come up with for pot? Come on.
Mary Jane, the devil's lettuce.
The skunk, isn't there like a skunk weed?
Sure, there's like skunk weed or
that's probably what you call the
marijuana.
Clearly we don't know what we're talking about, kids.
Go talk to
your older siblings, they'll tell you. Or
I had a friend who said he was feeling stony baloney, and I was like, that is the cutest thing I've ever heard in my life. No, he wasn't feeling. He was like, oh, I'm not gonna get stony baloney before I go to work. And I'm like, stony.
All right. Well, on that note, I think that's a very good segue to introduce our next guest, because it has
drum roll, please.
Since I've already said a lot of amazing things about our next guest on this podcast, and since I already spoiled who our guest was earlier when I was talking about not having my shit together with work, I'm just going to introduce our next guest by saying our next guest went to college. Please welcome Tricia. How
You guys are too much fun. I'm having too much fun watching. I don't want to be here. I just want to listen to you.
Sorry,
We want to listen to you.
Yeah.
Anyway.
We've welcomed you here to share all of your wisdom with us and our vast array of listeners, which I think is just you now.
Awesome. Well, I like me. I like you. It's all good. And I will start with a little story, which is that I know so little about drugs that when I was teaching freshman writing one year, a student turned in an essay about marijuana. It was like some sort of, I don't remember if it like some sort of research paper or whatever. And the title said something about Mary Jane. And I was like, I don't understand. Like, I don't get what that has to do with your essay, with your paper. And she had to explain what Mary Jane was. Oh no, you had no chill. I was an RA in college, and
oh, me too. At a Mormon college.
Wow, that's got to be fun. Well, and I knew so little about drugs that like, the women on my floor would be smoking whatever, and I'd be like, who's burning that awful incense?
It smells like a skunk. What's up?
They probably could have like just smoked up right in front of you, and you'd been like, what is that? And they'd be like, oh, this is a hand-rolled cigarette.
Yeah, pretty much.
Which wouldn't be a lie.
True. Yeah. So yeah, that's when it comes to knowledge about those sorts of things, I definitely did not have my act together back then. So
okay, well, how about this week? Did you have your shit together this week?
I am going to say that by conventional standards, the togetherness of my shit was pretty impressive. Let's see. So we're going on vacation next week, and I managed to not have a horrible mountain of work to do today, Becca. Not to guilt anyone.
I feel confident.
Learned that trick from my mom. Anyway,
so too well.
So actually, I almost didn't have my shit together in that respect, except that we were supposed to have some friends over for dinner last night. They canceled at the last minute, which meant I could work longer. And so I only have a mini mountain instead of a major mountain to finish this afternoon. Nice. So there was that. There was, and Becca and I have talked about this a little bit, I think. My life is sort of changing right now in some ways that are unexpected and positive, and I
yay!
Yeah, it's wonderful. And so I've been doing things and just sort of taking care of stuff that I normally just let go. Yeah. And so that's been really good. And I managed to get a haircut before I showed up for you all, and that's the best thing about this week. So yeah, my shit was together. Very cool. Yeah. My dykey spiky pride do.
Yeah, I was trying to think of how to word my next question. And since I didn't ask you ahead of time, is it okay to say that you are also here as a guest in honor of Pride Month as my like token lesbian? So I can be like, I'm friends with a lesbian. I get to wear rainbow earrings because I have a lesbian friend.
Absolutely not. I don't want anyone to know. No, that's completely fine. Yes. Yeah.
Yes. So
because you have no other lesbians in your life.
Right, I believe that.
We had this discussion at work because of the newsletter, and me wanting to send out a question, and me discussing with you, like I wanted to do something for the newsletter about Pride, educational wise, and then I wanted to ask people what Pride meant to them. And it like, I think if we have time at the end of this, if it's like, we wrap up around 11, maybe we can get back to that question and you can tell me what Pride means to you. Sure. And that will like satisfy that need in me to share that with the world, what Pride means to people. Okay, thanks.
Absolutely.
You do me a solid, thanks. Absolutely. All of our one listeners, you can listen to yourself and find out what Pride means to you.
I can't wait to find out.
I can't wait to find out.
Maybe this time next year we'll have 1 million listeners, and there will be someone who doesn't understand Pride, and they'll listen, and we will change their life forever, because that's what this podcast is going to do. It's going to change everyone's life forever.
I believe.
All right, good. We're manifesting it. All right, now to the good stuff. Tricia, when you were growing up, what did your parents? What did you say, Kate?
I said Tricia's the good stuff.
Tricia is the good stuff. Absolutely, yes. Kate and Beck are just the appetizer. Tricia is the meal. All right. Okay. So when you were growing up, what did your parents convey to you was the meaning of having your shit together? What does it mean to you now to have your shit together? And do you have your shit together by either definition? Go.
You know, so I obviously have been thinking about it this week. And I don't think my parents really ever overtly offered an explanation or a sort of a you know, urged us to have our shit together in any way. And I can go into like a long, big sort of detailing of my childhood to explain that if you want.
Well, like basically, we had someone on recently that's maybe I can't remember who it was. Oh, I'm such a bad host. Who said that their parents never conveyed to them what having their shit together meant, but by their actions they gleaned what it didn't mean.
Right, and that's what I was going to say, is that they you know, I mean, I would say that my parents didn't have their shit together, first of all, and I don't know a lot about their upbringing, but I think that they were not prepared to be parents. I mean, they were very young, financially, you know, not ready for kids. I know for a fact that none of the three of us were planned, and you know, which is, you know, that's true for a lot of kids, but I just don't think they had the resources financially, emotionally, any of that to sort of parent in an active way that would really, you know, model or overtly teach what having one shit together means. But it was also the case that our, you know, it was, so my growing up, and I have two older brothers, I'm the youngest of the three of us and the only girl. And
sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry for them, actually. I think they, I mean, it was pretty okay. Except for, yeah, they picked on me a lot, but otherwise.
If you're going to have all brothers, I recommend that they all be younger. Like in my case, I have
agreed. Make sure all brothers are younger.
So next time,
that would have been nice.
Yeah, next time, Tricia, make sure that you're born first.
I will do my best.
All things that you have control over and will realistically happen, I'm sure.
Totally. So like, without getting into too much of the, you know, whatever, they didn't really learn from their parents, I think, what it meant to have their shit together, and didn't really pass that on. It was also the case, like I said, they were just not ready to be parents in a number of ways, which led to some, I'm suddenly aware of how many ahs I say, which led to us not really having the best, like the circumstances weren't great. It was sort of a difficult childhood for all three of us, I think. And what was never said but was very clear was that nobody should know that. Like there was no airing of the family's dirty laundry. That was just not going to be okay. And so my sort of understanding as I grew up was that, you know, having your shit together, or appearing to have your shit together, is what's most important. Don't let anyone know like what's really going on. Pretend, you know, that everything's fine. And sort of later in my life, that also morphed into a sort of perfectionist tendency, like, you know, everything, I've got to control everything and appear perfect and do it all right so that nobody knows what's really happening, or nobody knows, you know, like what an imposter I am, or, you know, those kinds of things. And so really, I think, you know, that's the definition of having my shit together that I operated with for a very, very long time. And I would say even up to as recently as the last 6 months, that was sort of the overriding way I proceeded.
So
now I'm dying to know what happened like 6 months ago.
Right.
Well, and we can come to that. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, but before we do, so did you feel a lot of shame around
Oh, absolutely. And it's funny, when I got to college and I finally was sort of dealing with stuff, and even like coming out was not a big deal. It was a big deal in the sense that my parents were, squarely against it and thought all sorts of things and said all sorts of things. But like I had sort of dealt with like the other stuff from my childhood already for the most part. So like when I finally realized, I think I like the ladies, it was sort of like not a big deal, because like it didn't really, I didn't feel like it was a bad thing, and it didn't, like, I didn't feel like I had to hide it at that point.
Okay.
So that was actually sort of helpful.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
But I will also say, the one thing that sort of, even at the end of my college experience, I realized, and thing that carried on for a long time after that, was sort of deep shame about class. We were definitely a very working class family, financially precarious. And like, I don't know how, like, that was the one that stuck out of all of the different things, but that was really the one that stuck. And even now, I mean, I have a hard time with it.
Yeah. I would say that stuck with me until about, let's see, 10 years ago, when I got into AA and they told me I had to let that shit go, right? That was,
Right.
I think, probably still be with me. And I still sometimes look around and be like, I own a house. The bank gives me personal loans. Did I finally make it into the middle class? Like, I look at my paycheck and I'm like, wait, am I there? And it's like, it's funny because I remember growing up, it was so embarrassing, right? Like, you would get the hand-me-downs, you would have the sneakers that were the cheapest, that weren't the name brand, like, I remember we would go to the mall on the weekends and people would walk into the Gap with, I don't know, their parents' credit cards. I don't know how they would do it. Like, all I know is they'd walk out with bags and bags and bags, right? And my mom gave me $20 for the whole day, and I'd come out with like a pair of socks, like, just because I had to like walk out with a bag.
Socks are pricey,
and like, I mean, they are when you buy them from the Gap. Like, I got home and my mom was so upset that I spent like $7 on a pair of socks. I think, like, I don't remember exactly what 80s prices were. She probably didn't give me $20. Probably gave me $5, right? And thought I was going to use it at the food court, and like, I don't know. But anyway, I remember the other thing was, the girls in middle school all had the Esprit pins on their on the strap of their purse, and they'd have like 25, like the purse with strap would be covered, and I had like one. So maybe Esprit is where I got the socks from, because they give you that when you checked out. They give you a pin when you checked out. I had one, and it was like, I think it was so shameful that I only had one, that I think I didn't even put it on my purse. And I feel like I'm probably going to speak for you, Kate, but I feel like it was really obvious that I really cared. And with Kate, it wasn't obvious at all. Kate acted like she didn't have Esprit pins because she didn't want fucking Esprit pins, because she wasn't a cliche. And it was like,
I didn't know about the Esprit pins. I didn't. I was on.
Well, we did go to
the whole time.
We went to different middle schools, so maybe they didn't have them at your middle school, but yeah,
I think I wasn't paying any attention, because I was just like, how can I wear earrings that look like they're a parade?
Yeah, and it's funny because like, I think probably, I don't know if you went to private school, Tricia, but I think uniforms probably did Kate and I a favor, because everybody was wearing the same thing, and we only had to worry about feeling that shame on the weekends and on field trips, maybe.
My shame was, how can I make my uniform look weirder?
Yeah, for me, the thing that, and it has stuck for many years, is that, after picture day, they would always send the whole package home, and then your parents would choose the ones they wanted and send the rest back, and just pay for the ones they wanted. And like, my parents never got the big photo because they couldn't afford it. And like, that like stuck, and like for years. And like, I know even like with my daughter, like, there are years when we're like, oh, these pictures are whatever. But we buy the whole package.
See, so. I didn't do that for my kids. They would do a picture day at the beginning of the year, and you would forget that there were two, and they would make you order ahead of time what you wanted, and you just pick whatever, and you'd spend your money, and they'd send home these horrid pictures. Like, you could tell the photographer was just like, click next, click next, click next, right? And then at the end of the year, you wouldn't know picture day was coming. Like, you'd get it like, oh, send your kid to school in a nice outfit today, but it wasn't like they sent the package home. So you'd make sure that they, I don't know, brushed their hair and wore a nice shirt. And you would tell that the photographer had done like a glamour shots, like session with them of like, okay, turn your head to the left, tilt your chin down, okay, move your shoulder forward, okay, let's try another background, okay, let's try another position. And then they would send you home this huge package, and I would be so pissed. And like, I don't know what that did to my kids. I should check with them and ask them, but I would throw like the biggest temper tantrum, like, this is such a scam. I hate that the school does this. You know, they're getting kickbacks from Life Touch Photography, and I refuse. And like, sometimes I'd buy the whole package, and sometimes even if I could buy it, I wouldn't on principle. I'd be like, we're just getting the wallets. Like, I'd be so mad. Like,
I love your total rebellion, like over the stupid shit.
well, it was just a scam. Just do one picture today and do it right the first time. And even if you want to send home the whole package and make me like buy it, fine. Oh, you know, when we bought the whole package, when I would forget to send it back in time, and then the school would hound me for the money. That's the only time we bought the whole package. That's why I still have in a box under my bed piles of giant photos and bookmarks and keychain little tags and stuff of
Life
my
size
kids.
cardboard
Yes.
cutouts of
Oh
your
my
children.
God. Yes. Okay. Sorry. I digress.
Yeah, no.
And rent over.
I guess I should put Life Touch Photography and the children's schools on my step 4 and go over that with my sponsor. I clearly still have a very big resentment.
Good for you for clarifying. Yeah, good.
Thank you for uncovering that, Tricia.
Yeah, hey, I'm here to help.
But yeah, back to the shame of working class families in childhood. Yeah, I think Kate and I are very familiar with that.
Yeah.
And yeah,
I'm a little differently familiar with it than you are, Beck, but yeah, I'm familiar with it. Yeah.
How so? How would you say it would be different? Just curious.
Well, I think that I wasn't ever aware or cared what my peers were wearing. Like, to me, it was growing up was more about how can I find an expression of myself that's unique even while I have to wear a uniform or whatever. So I was not at all aware of what other people were wearing. Like, the only person I remember seeing on TV that I thought, oh yeah, I kind of like what she's doing, was Punky Brewster. So that just doesn't explain my entire wardrobe the rest of my life. Right?
Still, Brewster too. I wanted to be her, and I'm still just sitting here in my t-shirt.
I was always like, how can I look more like Punky Brewster? 2 different shoes. That's what I'm going to do. I can't afford 2 different shoes. I'll paint one, but like, so like my trying to find clothes and stuff was more about what can I do? How can I hack it up to make it mine? And I'm not going to find something I want at a regular store, which is convenient because I couldn't have afforded that anyway. So I would go to a thrift store and try to find something weird and put it together. You remember what I dressed like in high school?
Yes.
I don't know why my mother let me leave the house sometimes in some of my wardrobe choices. She's like, you were happy. I'm like, I was. So, but like, I was aware of class in a different way because there are a lot of things we couldn't afford, like pictures. So my grandparents would buy it. We couldn't afford to get me a new winter coat. So my grandmother would get it for me. Or we couldn't go on vacations like other families did. So we would go camping. And I love camping, because I'm a lesbian, or at least half of it, I'm bi. But like, I loved camping, so that didn't hurt my feelings. I was like, yeah, camping's great, and like, but I was aware that, whenever I went to go visit my nanny and pop down the street, they would always send us home with like 5 boxes of cereal and a gallon of milk, because a gallon of milk was so expensive that we would go digging in the sofa cushions for change to go get a gallon of milk, a gallon of milk and mom's cigarettes, but like,
priorities.
So, all right.
There was that shame there, but
one last question about growing up lower class, and then I'll let us move on. But I just think it's an interesting topic since we've all 3 experienced it. Parties at your house. We had parties at my house. I would say a lot more often in elementary school. And then in middle school with the St. Tim's crew, I didn't have any parties at my house. And I would imagine that's because St. Tim's is where I really started hanging out with the richer kids. They were going to St. Tim's because they could afford, their parents could afford to put all their kids into private school. I was going to St. Tim's because my parents were like busting their butts to get me into a school that could help my, special needs.
And or where you wouldn't get shot.
Well, I mean, that wasn't really an issue when we were growing up, but
that's what my parents were always saying.
Oh, right, because
I was right inside the city.
You were in the city, right? I was in the county. I could have gone to public school. I don't know why my parents didn't just do that. They did it by the time they got to my youngest brother, but they didn't do it for me. They still were trying to keep us all in private school at that point. But it wasn't a cheap private school like Lamb of God. It wasn't a private school where you could go and clean the classrooms instead of paying tuition. Anyway, so I didn't have any parties at my house in middle school. I think I was aware enough then that these friends should never see the inside of my house. In high school, I had one party at my house, I think just one. And that was when it had something to do with the Kiev exchange students. I don't know if it was when the students were still in town or if it was after we all got back from our trip. It was something to do with that. I remember Maria was there and Tracy came, and it was mainly like family and friends. So it didn't really count as like a high school party, right? So even in high school, I didn't have parties at my house. But you, Kate, you had parties at your house all the time. And everyone came, and they were awesome parties. How about you, Tricia?
Wild.
I'm going to ask Tricia, and then you can tell us about your high school parties, Kate. Did you ever have parties at your house, Tricia?
You know, I remember that in my entire childhood, my brother had a birthday party once at our house, and I had a very small, I don't even know if you could call it a party. It was just like me and I think 3, maybe 4 other girls, and it wasn't like a full out party. We just didn't do that, and I imagine it had to do with you know, my parents not being able to afford it. And it's funny because when I was, I think in 11th grade, I went to prom, and everyone met at our house. And I remember that a friend of mine who was going, she and her date, whatever, came, and her mom came to take photos, and her mom just made some comment about, you know, oh my goodness, like such a tiny house for 5 people. And I was just like, I mean, you know, and she, I'm sure didn't mean anything much by it, but like, I was just like mortified.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I had a friend come over in 9th grade just to hang out. And I don't know if you remember Heather, Kate from Texas. Okay. And she was like, oh, I just love y'all's antiques. Oh, your antiques are so interesting. Like we had secondhand furniture. We didn't have antiques. And it just seemed like, I think it was the first time I heard someone be like catty, right? And like, I think that was the first time. And like, I remember her like saying something about my brother that was mean, and I was just like, I think it was the last time I had someone, oh yeah, absolutely the B word, yes. And I think it was the last time I had somebody over from high school for a really long time. And but Kate had people from high school over all the time. Her parties were fucking epic. I have so many high school memories at Kate's house.
You know, do you remember when we were in senior year and you had a really big crush on Aaron Wixom for 5 minutes, and you're like, you have to get to know him. You have to get to know him. Like, he's terrified of me. So, and you're like, no, you have to get to know him. I'm like, fine. So we got to know each other, and then eventually became besties, and his family adopted me later. But at the
oh
time,
my God, it's my fault that you became Mormon.
Yes, it is. Blame yourself. But Aaron, when I got to know Aaron, he was like, yeah, I was just afraid of you because, like, you know, you had these wild parties, and I heard all about your wild parties. I'm like, from who? You know, and he's like, and like all these different people were there, and I just assumed you were doing drugs and drinking. And I'm like, not nary a drop, dude.
Nope,
just zero.
Yeah.
I forced people to play ultimate frisbee, and
your mom would hang out with us the whole time.
And my parents hung out and played guitar, and I was like, I want tiki torches in the yard, and they're at the dollar store. I'll get them myself with my babysitting money. And
it was literally
French bread, and like
it was the most chaperoned that we ever were of our entire like teenage years was at your house, but it was also the most fun and the coolest.
Yeah, and they were just hanging out, and they just, you know, just being nice. And like, there's so many of my friends that like thought of my parents as like protective and kindly for letting all the weirdos come in, because like after their eldest daughter, who could be any weirder than that? So little did they know my younger siblings would outdo me. At least one of them would. But yeah, they just, and like I have had so many people come back to me with stories like, I remember this one time I was down the street talking to the neighbor boy, and your dad went out the door and went, Jennifer, da, 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 da. Like, babe, you get away from that DeRocher's boy.
Yeah, stay away from
You
the
know.
DeRocher boys.
Those DeRocher boys. And so she like scurried back and felt protected instead of offended. And like, oh, and her mom let us borrow the hot tub that she had, this hot tub in a trailer.
Yes.
And we borrowed that for free a couple times, like hot tub party.
Yep, just parked it in the driveway. And it had like this big, like, it was like you went inside this enclosed like tiki room. Like it wasn't like we were just sitting in the hot tub in your driveway. It was like you enter this magical Hawaiian paradise.
Right? And like my house wasn't a big house. There were 4 kids and 2 parents. And you know, and it was Baltimore City, and like helicopters with spotlights would go overhead occasionally, you know, and like, but
somehow your parents had their shit together enough that their house had no shame in it, at least not for parties.
I mean, I didn't have any shame, but I also, when we moved into that house, that house was the first house that my family owned, right? So we'd been in apartments before that, and they bought that house from the bank because it had been abandoned. And so when we moved into it, there was, you know, like they cleaned out the detritus of whatever had been in there before, but there was still a lot of shit there that like the only door to the basement was from the outside. And when they moved the refrigerator that was broken, they discovered a door in the kitchen that led to the basement that they didn't know there was there before. And in the living room, there was a door to the basement that had been walled over really poorly. Like they didn't even remove the door jamb, just drywall.
Wow. My
dad, the carpenter, had so many expletives to say about what people did to that house. And now that I think about it, since the only thing in the basement was a rocking chair and a chain that was chained to the wall.
Oh dear God.
I don't want to think about it, but that's probably why the doors were walled up. Anyway, it was a fun house.
Crap.
My parents did so much to that house.
What you're saying is if we had had TikTok in the 80s, your dad would have been TikTok famous.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, okay. So, but we've gotten a little off track, but thank you for indulging us in memory lane and how great parties were at Kate's house. Tricia, tell us about 6 months ago, what changed, and what's your new definition of having your shit together, and why has it changed, and what's going on?
Okay, but first I want to say like a really valuable thing about what you're just talking about now. Like in my mind, I think I have always conflated class with parenting ability. You know, I've always thought, well, my parents didn't have the resources to be good parents. And it's always so heartening to hear stories about people who maybe didn't have financial resources, but their parents were still really great parents. And I just love that. So I want to say thank you for that and sharing that. So 6 months ago, okay, so like I said, for most of my life, I've been very much, you know, not wanting people to know like who I am or like what's going on with me. And that's been especially true. And then there was the perfectionist thing. And that's been especially true when it comes to my health. Part of it, I think, comes from, you know, when I was a kid, like I would do anything to just ignore the fact that I have a body, like just anything. And that includes not taking care of myself when, in a number of ways, but when, like if I have an illness or if something is wrong, like avoiding the doctor at all costs. And part of that is, I think, comes from just being a kid and being worried about money all the time. And like, oh no, if I'm sick, I don't want to tell my parents because they'll have to spend money and blah, blah, blah. So that just has gone on. And also, you know, I've been overweight just about my entire life, you know, probably since 5th grade or so on. And so another reason to want to avoid the fact that I have a body and want to hide and all of that and feeling, you know, shame around that. And so whenever things have gone wrong in the past, I've been inclined to just ignore them, not talk about them, blah, 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 which, you know, is sort of unfair to my partner and daughter, because like I've had like all of these rules about like, no, you can't talk to anybody about anything that's going on with this, and blah, 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 which puts them in a precarious position, because people, genuinely want to know what's up and what's going on. And I was having some real health difficulties throughout the course of, the worst of COVID, not COVID related at all, but like my health had sort of reached, health issues had reached sort of a crescendo last fall. And it was just not something I could ignore. There was just no way to not go to the doctor and face what was going on. And so I did. And, that was difficult, and I still didn't want people to know what was going on, but things were starting to improve. And then the other thing is that all of my life, well, not all of my life, I'm sorry, for many years now, I've considered having weight loss surgery, bariatric surgery. And for various reasons, I just have gone back and forth about it and not wanted to do it. But when all of this health stuff came to a major tipping point, I decided that really, given all of my health issues, that would really be the best decision I could make. And, that's great. And, I'm still working through that process, and hopefully we'll be able to be approved and have it, shortly. But that's not something I could have ever imagined sharing with people. But again, it was just sort of like, it's not like people aren't going to notice that something's up. And the health issues I was having, once I sort of made that decision to do that, it became much easier to share sort of all of the health issues I was going through at the time. And so I surprised myself by ending up talking to some friends about it a couple of times, and it's stuff that I would just never normally share. And so that was just a huge relief. And I can honestly say that, and I didn't know this, but I can honestly say that I feel happier now, even though I've been having these health challenges, than I have in at least 20 years, probably more. And it's just having made that decision and not trying to hide it from people. And,
awesome.
And it's fantastic. I mean, and it's really true. I have not been this happy, and I haven't even had the surgery yet, but I think that I feel like there's light at the end of the tunnel, or sort of more hope for me to live the kind of life I've been wanting to live all along now. And I'm so happy about it. And that's it.
That's awesome.
beautiful.
That's really
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah.
Now, mind you, I haven't told my mother about the surgery because I know what she thinks about it. So there's that.
Let me guess. She thinks it's the easy way out, the cheater's way out, or whatever.
I mean,
knowing how difficult it actually truly is, and how
Nobody had the surgery. Come on.
yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I know someone else that she knows who has had the surgery, and I know what she thought about that. So I assume she would feel every bit as much that way about me doing it. And so I'm just going to do it, and then I'll tell her if I need to, or I mean, I assume I will. Yeah, but that's the thing, is just I got to a crisis point where there was nothing I could do but be someone different than I was. And it's actually made all the difference. So that's my story.
I think that's great. And
Yeah.
it's you use some language there right out of the 12 steps, having made a decision. And yeah, so it's very similar. I think everyone has the opportunity in life, whether they have a problem with addiction or alcohol or whatever. I think every one of us has that we all get to say, okay, this is it. This is as far down this road as I'm going to go. And I'm going to make the decision now to take a different road for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And it's never too late. It's never too late.
Yeah, and that's funny because for the last 15 years at least, I've been feeling oh, I'm too old for X or Y or Z. And I've always thought it was too late for me for all sorts of things. And yeah, I mean, I agree. Now I don't feel that way.
As long as there's a heartbeat, there's hope.
I feel all tear. I'm a crier, so.
Oh, I just cry. I didn't know I could do that.
Cry.
I'm such a crier. Oh, I don't know. I have a problem with authority figures. And so every difficult conversation I have with people who I like bosses and things, I cry. It's horrible.
Oh, that is
Oh,
a
that's a problem. Okay.
yeah, especially in the arena in which we work. It's not like we're preschool teachers and there's crying going on all day.
Right. Yeah.
How do you navigate that? Do you just like warn Eric or Jessica ahead of time, or
well, God, Jess knows by now. And I guess Eric does too. I try to not have that happen, but like it's just like ever since I went to college, I've noticed like if I had to have and not even difficult conversations, sometimes just conversations with authority figures like my like a professor or whatever, it could be a fine conversation, but I'm just I don't know, blabbering on by the end and crying and whatever. It's just ridiculous. So maybe I'll lose that along with the weight. We'll see.
maybe.
See, I shut off my crying as a drama defense measure when I was a kid, and it only got stronger during my the dysfunctional years of my marriage, and when I divorced, I got off Zoloft because I couldn't afford it, and I got therapy, and I was able to cry again, and I've been on this journey of figuring out how to express the things that make me cry, how to express fear and how to express anger and how to express sorrow. And it's so freeing because I always felt so much shame over crying, among other things. And so now when I cry, my kids make fun of me because I will cry over every Pixar movie ever made because I'm a human being with a functioning heart. Okay.
It's only right.
And I will also cry over Marvel movies as well because WandaVision, okay? But like, and I do, and now it comes so easily that it's a relief and it's funny to me. So when other adult women especially can cry, I'm like, well done.
Oh God, I couldn't stop if I wanted to. The ugly cry, that's a whole other category.
Claire Danes in Little Women cry, like, make it ugly.
That's a whole different level. I've been with the same therapist for like a dozen years and I have never ugly cried in front of her, and I just can't.
Oh,
and that's and while we're talking about shitty parenting, I totally blame my mother, who once said, "You're so ugly when you cry."
Oh, Mom.
Man.
Oh, that's just the tip of it. We would have to have like 3 or 4 more of these shows before I can tell you everything.
Parents just don't understand how powerful their words are. Like I know I said things that I never remembered saying that Emmett told me back, and like I knew I didn't mean it the way he heard it, but horrified that I'd said it, horrified that he had understood it the way he did. And like the one that sticks with me to this day from my mom is, "You look prettier with your hair down. You shouldn't wear it in a ponytail."
You're so cute with it in a ponytail.
So whenever I have to do something like be on camera for our podcast, I have to make sure the curls are down and pretty. You can't have a messy ponytail.
Ugh, lies.
Like as if I need like to frame my face or hide it, like my face isn't good enough on its own. I don't know what she meant.
Didn't you wear a ponytail when you wore that really cute blue tea dress for like junior prom or something? And it was the cutest thing ever. I'm sorry.
I think I had a bun. Or a French twist. I had my hair done. It had flowers in it. It was up. It was absolutely up. I think the only reason that it was approved for that outfit was because it was like glamorous, like Jackie O, like in the theme of the dress. It
was really super cute.
But all right. Well, I'm really excited that you had such a great it wasn't a great experience, but such a great outcome from a hard experience, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's all you can ask for.
That's wonderful.
Right. And I think we have some time left if you want to tell us in like about 7 minutes. What does pride mean to you?
Yes, the pride! Bring on the pride!
Bring on the pride. I don't freaking know.
Means you're gay.
Yeah, I mean, so like one thing is that so I grew up in a very small town where it would have been a big deal to try and like middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania, like the Scranton Wilkes-Barre area, which nobody knows anything about except for The Office.
I know,
but seen that. Okay.
It's like 85% the middle of nowhere.
Okay. So right. So yeah. So I grew up in the middle of nowhere. And it was at a time when, so I graduated high school in 91. So, like the late 80s, early 90s, people were starting to come out more and stuff, but like still in my, very rural area, like that wasn't a thing for the most part that anyone did. And, and Becca and I had this conversation about, how whether being gay is a choice or not. And I know what, well, I'll just leave that aside, just to say that I think that if I had stayed there and hadn't gone away to college, I would never have been able to imagine a life where being in a relationship with a woman and not being like horribly, closeted would have been okay. And so now, I live in DC, and I feel very lucky to be in a place where it's completely fine to be who you are in that way. And so I think about going to like pride festivals and things like that when I was younger and still kind of had my mindset like before I moved here, and still had my mindset in that sort of small town, like I still felt like I was from a small town. Like I don't know that I could have imagined living this life, and I don't feel that way anymore. And so like all of sort of the trappings of pride, I think, are wonderful for people who especially who don't have that opportunity to feel that way. And I think it's wonderful for anyone because it is something to celebrate. I just feel like for myself now, it's not as important as it once was. If we're talking about pride as, kind of an event or a party or something. Now, the sort of the idea of pride, I saw something recently that, pride isn't about people. I forget how it said, but it was something along the lines of pride isn't about, kind of flaunting who you are and blah, blah, blah. It's about, not being attacked. It's more of a, kind of a, let's gather our strength together, than let's just be crazy and, be half naked on flutes.
Well, that part's fun too.
I mean, I don't disparage at all. I enjoy that shit. But
well, if it is a celebration of our strength in numbers, and when I say our, I'm not including myself. I'm just saying, like, quote unquote. Then the celebration of that might manifest as half naked on floats and parades. But it still is because the half naked person on the float in the parade is so happy that they feel safety in the numbers that they have out at the parade.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think it's, and if you look at like the political situation right now and the kinds of decisions people are trying to make, it's more important than ever. And I think that's true whether you're from the middle of nowhere or if you're from a city or wherever you are in this country, at least, it's more important than ever. So I don't mean to sort of downplay it. I just know that in my own life, I think that I'm, the other thing is I'm a parent, right? My partner and I have a teenager, and like there's just not time for like thinking about that stuff once you have a kid and you're really engaged and in their life. There's just not a lot of time for like, I mean, you want to model these things because you want your child to grow up knowing things are okay, and that she can be whoever she wants, but there's just not a lot of time to like, just sort of revel in our gayness because we've got
just
softball practice. Yeah.
Well, I could make you and your wife a t-shirt each that says revel in our gayness, and you could wear it to the softball games and ask people to revel in your gayness with you.
Awesome.
Oh,
Yes.
And the other t-shirt is ask me about my gay agenda.
Yes.
Cocktails at 2.
Tea party at 12.
Now, sort of that's the other thing is, kind of, I think that I think that the idea about gay pride that people have is probably much more about men, and are that they're sort of more, I don't know how to explain it. It just seems like, when you think about pride, you think about like these, I mean, you just think about men more. I feel like lesbians are like
with star pasties.
Yeah. I mean, where all the lesbians, we're just back at home, like with our, having our potlucks or whatever. Yeah. I mean, old stereotypes, I know, but really, I mean, it's just, and it's not the case that, I certainly don't mean that it's the case that men don't do that too. There are plenty of, like gay dads I know who are, living the same kind of boring life I am. It's just that I think our image of gay pride is as a culture is much more sort of shocking and in your face than I think the reality is for most of us.
Absolutely. Most people just want to live their life and love the person they love the same way that the straights do. Mm-hmm. Exactly the same. It's not that you want to have a parade half naked in the street. You just want to be able to go sit and watch your daughter's softball game.
Yeah.
And not have anyone throw any real or metaphorical stones at you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for letting us know that. And if there are any listeners or viewers that would like to tell us what pride means to them, you can email us at knbecktogether@gmail.com. That is the name Kate, the letter N, the name Beck, and the word together @gmail.com. Don't forget to rate,
button,
like, subscribe, share, do all the things that help us get more listeners. Spread the word that Kate and Beck are awesome. And until next week, Kate, keep your shit together.
Keep your shit together.